my good friend Congressman Wenstrup from Ohio. Brad, you're a medical doctor, and you've got a lot to say about what's going on with our research into the COVID virus and particularly NIH funding that may be involved in this.
Well, it's good to be with you, Gary. You know, we have a whole doctor's caucus on the GOP side, and we have a lot of talent and a lot of outstanding backgrounds that can help us understand what's taking place.
I want to talk to you about an issue that's getting a lot of airtime right now that I think really ought to be of great interest to the American public, and that is how National Institutes of Health funding has literally been used to fund research to create viruses that could do great harm to the human population. It's called gain of function. You're a doctor. Explain a little bit about what gain of function is.
Gain of function, beyond research, is what it actually does, is takes, for example, a virus and changes it. It may be a virus that's only infectious to animals, certain animals, and changing it so it can be infectious to human beings. And so that's the whole controversy here. Should this type of research even be taking place? Now, some will contend that, well, we're doing it because we want to create a virus and then be able to make a vaccine and then be able to treat almost any kind of virus that comes along. That's the argument for it. The argument against it is, well, there's a pretty good risk here. If you develop something that's very infectious to human beings and it gets out, couldn't that create a pandemic?
Well, initially, the Chinese claimed that this was a virus that was transmitted from animal to human through a wet market. And we've since discovered that they were actually doing research on gain-of-function research.
Well, you know, when COVID first started and we were all pretty much quarantined to our homes, I was doing some research with another doctor back in Ohio, where I'm from. We were on the phone 3-4 times a day. Matter of fact, he even was speaking with infectious disease doctors in China. Our goal then was to find out, what do you know about this virus and what kind of treatments are available and what seems to be working? What kind of research have they done? While we were doing that, we came across an article from 2015 that was co-authored by a gentleman named Ralph Barrick out of North Carolina with Dr. Shi Zhengli out of China from the Wuhan lab, and they were working on gain-of-function research. So this was open source information that this was taking place. Now, America put a pause on it, but China continued on with this. Now, what's even more curious now is who's actually funding it, right? So we know that the United States, through NIH, were giving grants to a group called EcoHealth Alliance. EcoHealth Alliance was funding Wuhan lab. Whether it was directly for that research or not remains to be seen. But we do know that it was going on, and that was the concern all along.
On the funding side, though, we put a pause on it in the United States, but the NIH continued to make grants. And as you mentioned, they made grants to EcoHealth Alliance. They made grants to some major research universities. The people that NIH made grants to then made other grants.
Exactly.
As you pointed out, as we were talking about this before we went on the air, money's fungible. And there's a lot of concern that there's NIH funding through multiple grants that wound up at the Wuhan lab.
And I have a bill right now, Gary, HR 4071, that prevents directly or indirectly any federal funding coming from the United States to a foreign adversary to do any type of research that's similar to gain-of-function research, that's going to have the possibility of creating a pandemic. We specifically target the big four, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and China. But the Secretary of Defense, with the Director of National Intelligence, with the Secretary of State, could go ahead and deem other countries unavailable for this type of research. And the key there is directly or indirectly. So if you're funding EcoHealth Alliance, you better be doing an audit to see exactly where that money's going.
Well, Brad, you've done great work on this. I really appreciate your leadership, and thank you for coming on with me.
You bet, my pleasure.